rights for those you disagree with.
Honourable Damien O'Connor.
It is astounding that we can hear a rant from a minister about upholding rights from a party that implements so many wrongs. Mr. Speaker, I object to this bill exactly on the basis that the minister speaks of, rights. And if I was a mining company or a landowner in this country, I'd be worried about this bill because it does a couple of things. Firstly, it assumes that mining rights are above all else and that we should drive through anything to make sure mining occurs. The last brainwave that the national government had was we should mine Schedule 4 areas, national parks. Nick Smith agreed with it. They thought that was going to save this economy, drive us forward. Well, we very quickly saw them turn tail and scupper off with the tail between their legs when they started to understand that New Zealanders, who also understand rights, know that there are some values in this country that need to be upheld. Not just selfish property rights, but responsibilities towards landowners. The Minister of Conservation is a landowner on behalf of the rest of us. He probably doesn't appreciate the job he has, he or she, but that job is to protect the conservation land. Now, what this bill does, of course, is say that the landowner, the Minister of Conservation, doesn't have the right because he or she has been irresponsible with that right and blocked mining. Well, I know in my patch down there on the West Coast, a lot of people make comments about DOC, but I also know that Labor in government, supported by the Greens, opened up, here he goes, just keep his mouth shut, opened up and developed more mines, responsible mines, than this national government's done through its whole time in government. It makes lots of noise, but it doesn't make much by way of progress. And in fact, the mining industry was outraged with the inept and stupid way that the national government handled the whole Schedule 4 issue. Because now what we've got is anyone who has any concern about mining jumping up and down and objecting to any sensible mining proposition. They have skewed the whole debate and balance around mining. What we've also seen here, Mr. Speaker, is that we've got property rights perhaps under threat. And that the Minister of Economic Development, Mr. Joyce, well, good God, would you trust anything with Stephen Joyce? I certainly wouldn't trust my second-hand car with him, let alone the conservation estate of this country or the future drive of our economy. Mr. Speaker, we need mining. Labor supports mining. We appreciate the jobs and the benefit out in the regions, but we also know that it must be done responsibly. Mr. Speaker, there are a number of proposals in the pipeline now, Bathurst being one of them. I think with adjustment, of course I have, and I've always supported Bathurst. No, we don't. Can I say that we support a process that is absolutely robust. I've been there and talked with people on the ground and got changes in the proposition put by the company to make sure we have better environmental outcomes, and I support it. That is under the current regime, a robust regime, and this dumb government thinks that they've got to tip it on its ear and hand all the rights to the Minister of Economic Development because he knows or she knows best. Mr. Speaker, we can't trust the economy to this national government. We're seeing what's happening now. Flogging off the silver, selling it to their mates, setting everything up to benefit a few people at the top at the expense of poor people who pay GST, who are trying to find a job, who are stuck on a benefit and now are going to be kicked around because the national government think that if we kick these people into work then the whole economy will be better off. And there should be members at the back there ashamed of what is going to happen to people who want a job, But they're now going to be forced out into a job of 10 hours a week. Mr. Speaker, let's come back to mining. Let's bring things back down to earth. There are some very pertinent points, Mr. Speaker,
Damien O'Connor.
made by my colleagues about the SOP that is coming in. I'll stick to land for the moment. Mr. Speaker, take a look at the issue of property rights. The fact that the government is now saying that the rights that the Minister of Conservation upholds and implements on behalf of each and every one of us over conservation land should be compromised by a mining company or a minister who might be pressured by a mining company. I don't accept that. I have seen the Minister of Conservation under pressure, yes, no doubt, make changes, force changes, implement trade-offs to ensure beneficial outcomes for conservation to allow mining to proceed. That is the way it should be. Not for the Minister of Conservation to be bullied by some minister who's got a mate who wants to set up a mining company, Mr. Speaker. Because that's what's going on in this economy at the moment. So I am not supporting the bill because I don't want Auckland investors or Chinese investors or American investors to get absolute carte blanche, the right to come down to the West Coast and rape and pillage our region and walk away and leave it. We need proper environmental safeguards. We need the Minister of Conservation to protect the conservation estate. We can't rely on Nick Smith. So we're going to have robust laws that ensure the next Minister of Conservation can protect areas like the West Coast, like Kahurangi National Park, like all the national parks around this country, because the national government, through the back door, no doubt, will continue to try and open up the door for mining on Schedule 4 areas, Mr. Speaker. I can say that... Can I... No, I know what's going on here. I accept, yes, there are provisions in this bill here. There are provisions in this bill here to uphold some of the requirements and the protection for Schedule 4 areas. But I also know that you're rolling over the Minister of Conservation. Yes, you are. Mr. Speaker, the bill does implement and insist on, we hope, some better standards of health and safety before any mining proposals go ahead, and we acknowledge that. It is needed, and no project, no prospecting should go ahead without the most robust levels of health and safety, Mr. Speaker. I'm not going to go on. We all know why we need that, and it's a sad outcome. Mr. Speaker, go back to property rights. Farmers who up until 1992, of course, had no ability to object to mining. Up until 1992, the people who had the mining rights had the right to go and mine, regardless. The bill was changed. National changed that. That's right. National changed that. It was a good job. It said that the owner of the land, be it the Minister of Conservation or a farmer, had ultimately the right to say no to a mining proposal on the land, because they owned the land. That the owner of the mineral rights under the land, which is the Crown, had no superior rights. And that is the way it should be. We should ensure that, be it a farmer, be it the Minister of Conservation or an SOE, the person who owns the land should have the ultimate say in whether a mining proposal goes ahead or not. I think whether it be Magna Carta rights, which I hear of from time to time, or normal property rights and more recent legislation, there'll be a few over there in the National Party that probably refer back to the Magna Carta. I don't necessarily accept it as a mandate for property rights of today, Mr. Speaker. But farmers now who are looking at issues like pylons on their land, whereas in the past, the Public Works Act ensured that, the pylons could be put on land, bit of goodwill, and she's all right. Now farmers and the Minister of Conservation are looking at the rights on their land and judging them, assessing them and protecting them. Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Conservation now looks for more commercial opportunities on the conservation estate, and he cuts back the budget and fires people from the Department of Conservation, it is inevitable that the pressure will build to trade off those values for mining. Now, there'll be some in my West Coast electorate who don't like me saying that, but they do understand property rights and they do understand the objective, Mr Speaker, of conservation
Williams.
estate.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I take a call on behalf of New Zealand First.